Hi, it's me, Yusuf again. In this video, I'll be showing you how to tackle different question types. But if you haven't seen the first video, go see it in the description box below. So first, we are going to go through a data analysis question type. So a data analysis question type usually has the following keywords: describe the pattern or describe the trend, etc. So the answering structure would be: step 1, have a topic sentence. Talk about the trend. So is it increasing, decreasing, or is it being unchanged? Step 2, refer back to the source, such as quoting the source or saying, according to the source, blah, 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 blah. Step 3, explain the relationship between the source and the trend. And step 4, have a short conclusion. So this is the PEEL structure: point, example, elaboration, and link. Okay, so this is question A. It says, describe 2 general trends over the period 2013 to 2017 as shown in source A. So first you highlight 2 because that's what it's asked, and then you highlight general trends because you have to focus on the general. You can't just be very specific, you have to look at the source as a whole. And then it says 2013 to 17, which is the year provided in the source, and then it says source A, so you only go to source A. So now in source A, it shows the sources of DSE examination stress. On one hand, it shows the source of stress. On the other hand, it shows the percentage of respondents choosing each source. And as we already saw, 2013 to 17. And if you can see, it's the general trend is that the sources of stress are tending to decrease across the year. It's gone from, so for example, for inadequate time to study, it's decreased from 65.8% in 2013 to 51.5% in 2017. So when you state this in your example, you have to also subtract the difference. So you can be like, this is the difference between 2013 and 17. And then you can also explain and then just link up and conclude. And then you can do the second trend. So it's asked two general trends, right? So first trend is that it's decreasing, and then the second trend is that the results or the percentage of respondents choosing each source has been consistent. So what I mean by this is that you see there's no fluctuations. So there's nothing like higher in 2015 than 2013. It's just been consistently decreasing. So you can say there's a constant or there's a consistency in the percentage. So we discussed the first general trend is that the source of stress is decreasing. So that's the first general trend. So we'll write that down. So with the point, you can just keep it short so that you have more time to elaborate later on. And then next you'll write your second thing. So that's refer back to the source. So you'll quote the source. So you'll be saying, according to source A, and basically like try to summarize what is general about this whole trend. So you can say, according to source A, the percentage of respondents, the percentage of respondents choosing an adequate time to study decreased. So it decreased from 65.8% in 2013 to 51.5% in 2017. Okay, so now you have to state the difference. So you can be like, there is a difference of 14.3% between these 4 years. And then you can try elaborate a little more. And the thing is, you can't explain the reason. Like, since it's only asking you to describe the general trends, you don't explain. When it says describe, you don't explain. So you can just say there's a difference of 14.3% between these 4 years. Therefore, the source of stress is decreasing. And that will be your concluding sentence, which is step 4, which is conclude your point. And oh, by the way, this is step 3. Okay, so now we'll talk about the second point of the first question, which is how there's a consistency in the percentage of respondents choosing each of these sources. So we'll write that down. There is a consistency in the percentage of respondents choosing each source. So from what we already did above, you already know that you have to quote source A. So from source A, you can just say that Overall, there's been a decrease. There's no fluctuations in either of the years, so there's a very consistent and very predictable pattern. And then you just conclude it off with the same point that you started off with. So you can just, in the conclusion, you can say there is a consistency in the percentage of respondents choosing each source. So the next question is, suggest and explain some measures to tackle the problem. So one way that I tackle this question is through explaining the viewpoints of different stakeholders, like the government, schools, students. So this can ensure you can present points on like who can help out in this problem so that you have a target audience. And the second thing is quoting the problem directly from the source. Like, what is the problem, what needs to be achieved, and how will the solution actually solve the problem? So this question type is from source blank, identify and explain. So this is basically where you do what I previously taught. You just do PEEL minus the solution part. So this is the explain and identify from the source type of question. And although it doesn't say quote from the source, it does usually mean, it implies that you have to use both of the sources provided. And since it's 8 marks, we have to do 4 points. So the question is, explain the possible impact that the phenomenon of left behind children may have on China's future development. So it says explain, which means you have to use PEEL. And then it says possible impacts. So possible impacts could either be negative or positive. So keep that in mind. It does not always have to be negative. And then it says phenomenon of left behind children. So you need to know what left behind children. And it basically just means children who were left behind by their parents so that the parents could work in a urbanized environment. And it says the effect on China's future development. So not just any impact, but you have to relate it to how it will affect China's future development. Okay, now that we've analyzed the question, we can go to the source. So when they talk about impact, you either choose positive impact or negative impact or both, which is usually better because you'll get higher marks through that. So what I did here was I wrote, the first negative impact is that there's a lack of parental care, which would indirectly lead to a harder adjustment to economic life for the children. So that's the first point. And then I use source A. So according to source A, it states, a range of social and institutional hurdles also prevent the children from becoming fully integrated urban citizens. So this point from the source is relevant to the point that we're making. And then my elaboration was, so for elaboration, you can just go with this shows that, so that it's quicker. So this shows that as parents cannot be emotionally and physically present with their children, they will not be able to pass on their morals, values, and the knowledge that's crucial for today. Although they have their grandparents, those grandparents may be old and tired and they lack the current economic knowledge as they're not in the workforce. Technology is also ever evolving, so when children invest their childhoods in a village life and are expected to live and adapt to the city when they grow up, there will be an evident internal work culture shock, and this will be much harder for them to adapt to the consistency and workload expected in a city. And then lastly, you will just conclude what you said in the beginning. So it'll go like, therefore, the first negative impact is that there's a lack of parental care, which would indirectly lead to a harder adjustment to economic life for the children. And then there's point 2, point 3, which you'll write, and then there's point 4, which is optional, depending on whether you have enough points to come up with, and that's it. So a lot of students confuse the difference between to what extent questions and do you agree questions. So basically, to what extent questions are whether you agree to a large extent or a small extent, whereas do you agree questions is whether you disagree or agree with the questions. So it's very important that you put that out in the introductory lines so that the examiners will know that you've read the question properly. For to what extent questions, it's most necessary that you have a rebuttal so that once you see that question word, you can just put in a rebuttal and a counter argument. Okay, so question B asks, in a modernized society, the community should have a greater role than the family in the upbringing of children. Do you agree with this view? Explain your answers. So first highlight in a modernized society because it's not just any society. And then it says community, so it's comparing community and family, and it's highlighting on the difference between the community and family is the greater role in the upbringing of children. So do you agree with this view? Explain your answer. So when it says, do you agree with this view? You just say either I agree or I disagree with this view, which is what I've written here. So for this question, I chose no. No, I disagree with this view. And you don't have to write the full sentence. You can just say, no, I disagree with this view. And then you can go with the first point, which is family strengthens the healthy development and care of a child. And then topic sentence 2, and then 3, and then comes the counter argument. So for 12-mark questions like these, counter arguments and rebuttal is very necessary. So for my counter argument, it's basically someone else opposing me. So I would be like, some people might disagree with me because traditionally grandparents assist grandchildren with attentiveness and love. So you can see this point from source A where it says exactly that. But then your point of a rebuttal is to counter argument that idea, because you want to present yourself as a stronger opinion. So you say, however, and then you give your rebuttal, which will be, in a modernized society, children need to be equipped with modern life skills and a modernized mindset. According to source A, it says, it prevents the child from becoming fully integrated citizens. So this shows that even though historically grandparents were essential for the child's development, they might not exactly be fully equipped with modern life knowledge, technological advancements, and the workings of the economy, which the parents would have. So that's a short rebuttal. And to end it off, you can just say, in conclusion, I disagree with this view, which is basically repeating the intro line. Okay, so this is the to what extent questions, which is pretty much similar to the do you agree questions, but the format and how you write your intro sentence is different. So for to what questions, they would usually ask, do you agree to what extent? So you usually just write, I agree to a large or small extent, depending on the opinions or the viewpoints that you have. Do not write that you disagree to a large extent or that you disagree to a small extent, because that's not what they asked you. It's more like whether you agree to which extent. And then after you go on with that, it's pretty much the same deal with the do you agree question, which is topic question 1, topic question 2, and topic question 3, and then your counter argument and rebuttal, and then you end off with a conclusion. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you guys for listening. I hope that helped. And if you have any more questions, please DM Junes on their Facebook page or Instagram. And good luck for your exams.